Edwards looking to throw. He's got a man wide open.
You be the best by beating the best.
You know, if you win the Gulf South Conference, by default, you are one of the top teams in the country.
Success breeds success too. Each school kind of drove the other schools to raise their level of play in whatever sport it was, but particularly in football.
We've been to 6 of the last 12 Division II national championship games,
and I think that made the league. I think that made the league very special. There were no weak sisters. There was no week where you could just chalk it up as, you know, that, well, this is a W.
The conference originated in 1970 when 6 college presidents met and formed the Mid-South Conference, initially focused only on football due to scheduling issues. It became the Gulf South Conference in 1971 with the addition of Southeastern Louisiana and Nicholls State, expanding to 9 men's sports. By 2000, it became the largest NCAA playing conference with 18 schools. Membership continued to fluctuate due to program cuts, realignment, and schools transitioning divisions. Despite ongoing changes, the GSC remains a competitive force.
I really don't know how it was created, and why it was created, but I know one thing: it turned into a great conference.
Schools from Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana. That was the initial grouping, and then of course it's changed a lot over the years.
It's been a really good group of schools over the years.
Back in 1970, there was a collection of 6 schools that got together, led by an executive committee from Jacksonville State, Livingston, which is now known as West Alabama, and UT Martin, trying to develop a new way to do competition in the Southeast. And those 6 schools formed what was then called the Mid-South Athletic Conference. And August 1970, with 6 members: Delta State, North Alabama, Jacksonville State, West Alabama, Tennessee Martin, and Troy. And football was the only sport we sponsored when it started. And in that very first year, Jacksonville State was ranked number 8 in the nation and went undefeated. So we were off to a really quick start. And then 1 year later, we rebranded as the Gulf South Conference, based in Hammond, Louisiana. We added Southeastern Louisiana, Nicholls State to the league, and West Alabama wins our first national championship. So for over 50 years, we've been winning national championships out the gate and competing for them ever since.
Football's a religion in the South, that people like to say.
You be the best by beating the best, and
Outside of church on Sunday, it's probably the next most important thing. So
The Gulf South Conference in D2 is a tremendous place to land because of the quality of athletics, not just football, but across all sports.
this is you better be ready every week. Doesn't matter who you're playing. Back then, didn't matter who you're playing. Doesn't matter who you're playing now. Like, this is a tough conference, but you better be ready to go every single day.
The Gulf South Conference has been called for years kind of the D2 version of the SEC.
There's a speed level that obviously is something that, always feels like goes to the Gulf South. There's a lot of fast football players on all three levels, D-line, linebacker, secondary on defense, and then really every position on offense is really good athletes. So it prepares you for what we think is going to be hopefully a playoff run every year for wherever the top team in the conference is.
If you win the Gulf South Conference, by default, you are one of the top teams in the country.
Things beyond that, you already played, teams as good as anybody in the country within your own league, and so then there's no surprises when you face people from other parts of the nation in the playoffs. So that's and I think success breeds success.
With the historical success means you better be good in the future as well, because you got a large name to live up to in your conference, at your school that you're at. And even currently right now, every team in the Gulf South has made the playoffs at least once in the last 2 years. So.
The first 9 years I was at UNA, 7 years, a Gulf South Conference team played in the national championship.
You add to the number, not necessarily just the number of teams that have won national championships, but then you also add the number of times Gulf South Conference teams have played in the national championship game. Maybe not won, but played for the national championship. It's a phenomenal number.
I love to play in this conference. I met so many really good friends, but a lot of really talented players, a lot of people that I've played with at their NFL, I coach now in the NFL. So This conference is an elite conference. It has been for a very long time.
The Gulf South Conference has set the standard in Division II football. With 13 national championships, more than any other D2 conference, Gulf South teams have been a constant presence on the biggest stage. From Troy State's early dominance to North Alabama's 3 titles in the 90s, to recent wins by Valdosta State and West Florida, the tradition runs deep. In the Gulf South, championship football isn't just history, it's the expectation.
Alabama kicker, Demetrius Shelton, top of your screen. They're looking for Shelton in the corner. He's there, makes the catch at the 5 to the 1-yard line for North Alabama.
That 93 season, fought our way through the playoffs, got to the national championship game. It was a complete sellout. They brought in bleachers here in Florence and all that. So it was over 15,000 people at the game, and we got a big lead. We were up by 10. We were down by 10. Finally the game's tied, and we had a dramatic drive in the last minute of the game. Scored the winning touchdown with 10 seconds left, 41-34, and it was just an incredible experience for all of our student athletes, for our community. I mean, everybody just lost it, stormed the field when the game was over, and it was knowing that we had those student athletes back for 2 more years was an incredible thought just at that moment. Like, hey, we just won one. What about the next couple of years? And
the team buses were coming down, and there was just a sea of red and black clad fans waiting at the down at the bottom of the hill. I mean, there were several thousand fans, and I remember thinking to myself, we've arrived. We get this. This is something that we're not just the newbie anymore. We belong here, and we were able to win that ball game, and of course went on, like we mentioned, to win 4. And Valdosta State has now played in 3 others, so 7 times they've appeared in the national championship game. But I'll treasure all 4 of them because they're really hard to get.
We were the only Division II team ever invited to the White House, and just till a couple years ago, when President Biden invited all the championship teams on every level, I think, to the White House. But so that was a tremendous honor for them. But they'd accomplished something nobody had ever done before.
The Harlon Hill Trophy, often called the Heisman of Division II, was first awarded in 1986, named after Harlon Hill, a former University of North Alabama star and NFL Pro Bowler. The award honors the top player in Division II football each year. It began right here in the Gulf South's backyard, created to shine a spotlight on D2 excellence. Over the decades, it's recognized some of the game's biggest stars, many from the Gulf South Conference itself.
There was no such awards, below the Division I level when we created in 1986. And the reason we created it was because Harlon Hill had played football at North Alabama, and he went on to be a NFL Rookie of the Year and Most Valuable Player with the Chicago Bears. But had he never played, professional football, no one would have ever heard of him. And we felt like, there's great athletes in Division II every day. There's been Darrell Green and John Stallworth and Harry Carson and on and on and on, an unbelievable list of great NFL Division II players. And again, they were never recognized really for what they did in Division II. And we wanted to, change that and start honoring them for what they're doing in college, regardless of whether they go pro or not. And, so a lot of the young men that have won it, were great college players, never had a professional career, but they were honored for what they did on the Division II level. And I'd say it was a great recognition. It was a great thing to have in our community, but it was great for all the schools, for all the individual athletes that were honored. And like I said, it kind of helped catapult or push a lot of other divisions to kind of do similar things, and brought recognition to so many more people.
What makes the Gulf South meaningful, I think, is you get to put yourself, if you're a really good team or you're a really good player, usually if you're a good player, your team's going to be pretty good. But sure, if you're a really good team, you kind of put yourself in the history books for a lot of really good reasons. So when you go back, and I've actually done a lot of research the last year or so about the history books of the GSC and kind of records broken and all that, and it is unbelievable. I'm a football junkie, but there's some names in there that I'm just like, man, that person played in the Gulf South, this person played in the Gulf South. So it really does, what makes it special is it puts yourself in historical conversation with a lot of people that you don't realize until you actually start to do a deep dive. But when you sit there and look around, you're like, man, this is a lot of really good names to be associated with. So it's a great conference overall.
There's a long list of amazing people who've had an impact on the Gulf South Conference between the lines and the football field. And it goes all the way back to the beginning, but some that folks recognized recently is an amazing coaching tree out of Valdosta State, where you've seen people like Hal Mummy and Kirby Smart and these type of folks, Will Muschamp, come out of Valdosta State, but also Chris Hatcher, who was a star Harlan Hill Award winner while he was a quarterback at Valdosta State. Now he's got Samford in the playoffs. You got folks like Terry Bowden, who was at Auburn and Akron, that spent time at North Alabama. Bobby Wallace, who, if you don't know small college sports, you really need to spend some time talking to him. He's the GSC career all-time winner, went to 10 NCAAs. They won 3 consecutive national championships at North Alabama while he was coaching down there, and a lot of other folks that are still doing it out there. And then when you go back and look at the players, you look at a guy like Fred McAfee, who was at Mississippi College. He was a running back. He's a 15-year NFL vet. Now he's in the front office with the New Orleans Saints. You've got Ronald McKinnon. That's a name many people may not know. He was the first defensive player to win the Harlan Hill, helping lead North Alabama to those 3 national championships. And then for the folks that are still doing it now and playing fantasy football recently, you obviously have Malcolm Butler, who had one of the biggest plays in Super Bowl history and won 2 rings. And then you throw in Kenny Moore, who is the best nickelback in the NFL, playing in Indianapolis right now, and Tyreek Hill, who's the fastest guy in the NFL. And it's just littered with folks. And that's just a few. That isn't a long answer to a short question, but that barely scratched the surface on the impact that Gulf South Conference alums have had on the sport of football.
Back in 1995, we had 4 players make NFL teams as a rookie, which was more in Alabama and Auburn that year combined.
A lot of people knew all these great names like John Stallworth and Harry Carson and Darrell Green and Rod Smith and just on and on and on that are, NFL legends. They didn't know they played in Division II.
So Tyreek Hill, obviously, like you said, played at West Al, was in the conference. So I kind of have a unique play connection. So I'm from the same 30 minutes east or west of where Tyreek is from in South Georgia. So I played against him in high school 4 times. And then actually, I think he was hurt when we played them when I was at Valdosta. So I do remember we were very close to getting him at Valdosta State as far as transferring. We had him on official visit at our spring game in 2015, very close. And, but obviously did some really good stuff at West Al and is now doing great stuff. So, I got a unique experience with Tyreek, but I had a lot of respect for him.
At a high level to win a GSC championship, and once you've done that, there's few in the country that are better. There may be some at that level. North Dakota State was dominant at one time, but no league has ever produced the number of champions, the number of different schools that win championships, the number of different schools in the playoffs. We would get in the playoffs, and you'd be facing 3 or 4 other GSC teams in the playoffs before you got to people a lot of times from other regions. So
we've been able to maintain that consistency and continue to win and win at a big level and win on a national level with coach after coach after coach. So I think that is something that a lot of people recognize and appreciate. And I think it's something that those of us that have been part of Valdosta State are very proud of.
My very first year, that came into focus for me as we make runs to national championships, and Malcolm has his amazing play in that Super Bowl, and it just continues from there. I mean, we've been to 6 of the last 12 Division II national championship games. Has had a Gulf South member, and that's always a great time to pause and look back and go, hey, there's only one other commissioner that has the privilege of having a team in this game, and I get to do it every other year almost. And it's amazing to take a step back and look and see what the Gulf South has done and how deep it is and the history and tradition that we have.
He found a football back there. Tony Middlebrooks jars the ball loose from Daryl Payne. Ruffin scoops up the ball and goes 23 yards for the touchdown.
If you had one message for the next generation of Gulf South coaches and athletes, what would it be?
Well, I think my message to, those folks that might compete in the Gulf South Conference in the future.
The conference is changing every year. I mean, there's good teams, bad teams, teams that are just okay in all sports. So you just have to adapt and be ready to play no matter who's up there, because anybody can be good on any certain day. So you have to adapt for the change and be ready anytime.
Be prepared to compete at a very high level.
And the fact that, if you're able to survive the Gulf South Conference regular season, chances are you're going to go very, very deep in the playoffs. So you better get yourself ready for a long, long season.
But I think that the schools that remain in the Gulf South Conference, the ones that are there now, there's a great tradition of football. And, whether the league is the power that it once was, or whether it's in a period of growing, that if you coach in this league now, you're going to be in a good football league.
I mean, the thing is, just look at the history of this league and, the schools, the successes, the championships, as you mentioned, NFL talent, just outstanding people, created not only great athletes, but great individuals. You had great coaches. So it's a tradition worth looking at and something you hope that you'll be able to build on and add to going forward.
From championship banners to coaching legends, from NFL stars to fierce rivalries, the Gulf South Conference stands as a cornerstone of Division II football. It's a league built on tradition, passion, and excellence, where every player, coach, and fan carries the spirit of competition forward. This is Gulf South football. Proud history, relentless drive, and a game that never quits. Catch all Gulf South action on Flow College.